QR code. We're back. We're back. We're back. The season is over. Well, the season is over for the Vikings. So, for all intents and purposes, it's over for the real team in the NFL. I'm Razor.
I'm Q.
I'm Adam.
Hey,
Okay, and as I say, we're back to discuss what we've seen, what we've heard, and how we feel. And I'm just going to jump right into it. I'm going to start off by saying that I, for one, who predicted that we'd go 8-9 for the season, and I saw us go 14-3 and get bounced out in the first round of the playoffs. I'm going to stick to what I've said. I enjoyed the season. I wasn't happy with the way it ended, but unless we win the Super Bowl, you know, it doesn't matter how it ends. I think that the season was gravy. We got a lot more than any of us expected. Anybody who says they expected more than what we got should have put it on video before the season started. Those out there who are saying, "Oh well, can't believe Kevin O'Connell should be fired. He should definitely be fired." And Sam Darnold, but where were you in June and July with these comments? There were same people who were crying that we should have kept Kirk, who never won 14 games for the Minnesota Vikings. There, that's my drive-by there. I'm gonna,
oh,
I'm gonna let it
that's
sit
gonna leave
out
a
there
mark,
for now.
man. That's
Exactly. Thank you. So I'm gonna throw it to you, Q. What are your impressions
so
of?
well, well. You said it just now. Unless you recorded it at the very big. Oh wait, we did. Oh, but
That's,
here's it. I'm my head's all swollen because I said 12-5.
yes, you
I
did.
said 12-5. I knew Darnold would do it because, well, that's what the Vikings do. That's what the Vikings have done for all those years that they didn't have a first round franchise quarterback. And we'd rent a really good one for a year or two, you know?
Yep.
So but this year no different. For all the people that screamed, "Oh, what's gonna happen if Kurt leaves?" Well, Kurt left, we won 14 games. I and the people, oh, I can't believe they dropped Kurt for Sam Darnold. And I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's just no. Let's look at the body of work. The kids play. This is the kid's sixth year, and in 2 weeks back to back, he has played he was on the biggest stage with the biggest games. If you expected that this kid was going to win those games, you need to have your head examined. That said, he was all part of a grand plan to field something kind of entertaining because the Wills didn't like the concept of tanking. I don't like the concept of tanking, but they said, "Hey, we're going to do it." So I hate the whole competitive rebuild slow what they call it and everything. That's kind of stupid. But I think that we said, "Hey, well, while we develop our young quarterback, we rented a guy, and then we got some free agents so we can get under this horrible salary cap issue that we got this year." So a lot of that is taken, and from that, there are going to be a handful of guys that are going to be on this roster next year. Some of them, most of them won't. The ones that won't be here will mostly likely be there because they're just old. But I mean, shoot, there are a handful of guys, especially on that defense, will be there. We got a lot to get done in the off season. There's a lot that has to happen in the off season. We got to do something with the right side of the offensive line. I hope we have a center in the hopper, and I'm hoping he was marinating like J.J. McCarthy was. But Garrett Bradbury is awful. All right, that's the nicest word I can use for him. We need to do something about a running game. We need to figure out that secondary, whatever is going on. And I think a lot of things are going to solidify in the next week or so because it's starting to look now, unless it's Jacksonville, Brian Flores probably going to be leaving us this year. So,
Okay.
but
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
All right, what are you thinking?
well,
Well,
Adam.
I think that before the season began, I didn't really have necessarily like a fixated thing of, number of wins or whatever. I honestly, the biggest source of inspiration for me in the off season going into this season was when Darnold was picked up. I just kept having these visions of a Baker Mayfield redux. And like I said one time before, on steroids, if we were lucky. And that was really, really because, you got a guy who came out with a lot of hype and a lot of promise and everything. And Sam was a number 3 pick and cannon arm and, a lot of good things expected. And I was just like, hopefully he's finally landed in the right system, just like Baker Mayfield. It was just like a real good case study. And that's what I was hanging my hat on, really, to nothing else. Just that was it. Like, let's hope he works out. So obviously, you couldn't have asked for more of a success from him, unless you're being like super greedy, which I was trying to be. But it was no, it was a wildly entertaining season overall. I think he set something like 35 team records this year. It was like incredible, and yeah, I mean we were very competitive, and unfortunately, when it push came to shove and we played against like the real big boys and the thing, we got pushed around, and it exposed a lot of things that we still, like Maki was saying, we have to work on. For years, our offensive line has been by far the most overlooked part of the team. I just, for the life of me, can't figure it out year in and year out how we just kind of stand pat more or less. And obviously, hopefully get Darisaw back would be huge. Get him back fully 100%. And we just got to beef up that line because if McCarthy is as good as advertised, and probably he will also be, it's phenomenal success. Give him protection and give any NFL quarterback, really good protection, and they're going to carve up most defenses if they have enough time. So, I don't care what the reports say and everything. Any guy who's on an NFL roster as a backup is a hell of a player, either way. So, he's got to. Hopefully, he'll pan out, and hopefully, we'll make the right decisions. Hopefully, Will can be 100% going into next season and not have any kicking. That would be like a huge wish list item just for 1 year, just not have a single kicking issue that crops up. That would be refreshing. And but it would be very un-Vikings like.
Oh, definitely.
And,
definitely.
And
6 or 7 teams had issues with kickers this year, though. So,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah, that's always going to be an issue. I have to I have to say that for us to move forward, the Vikings to move forward, we definitely have to address the offensive line. I think it hasn't been so much because it's been a glaring weakness on this team for a decade and a half or so. For us to address that issue, we have something now we didn't have before. 2 things. We have the money to address the issue, and we have the staff who can work to build that. And that wasn't, with Zimmer, let's be honest, if you weren't playing defense, Zimmer didn't care if you were alive. I mean, it wasn't under Zimmer, our offensive line literally withered on the vine. It just went away. And he didn't care because he didn't care about the quarterback. He didn't care about the offense. We have a coaching staff now that cares about the offense. And, Kevin O'Connell just got a contract extension. We haven't gotten the details of that yet, but I'm guaranteeing it was a lot of money. His career is hanging on J.J. McCarthy's success. If you think Kevin O'Connell, if anybody, not you, but if anybody thinks Kevin O'Connell isn't going to do everything he possibly can to protect J.J. McCarthy, to keep him upright, to make him productive, when his job is hanging on the success of this kid, they're sadly mistaken. Sam Darnold wasn't Kevin O'Connell's pick. Kirk Cousins wasn't Kevin O'Connell's pick. J.J. McCarthy was Kevin O'Connell's pick. This is the guy, we hired him to find a quarterback. This is the quarterback he found. So that being said, the issues that we do have to address, because we're in a position now where we have money, surprisingly enough, because we got rid of a high-paid quarterback. We have money. We know what our weaknesses are, and we have to address those weaknesses. And that brings me to our next topic, which the Minnesota Vikings are now facing the draft. They are facing the Senior Bowl is coming up. Is that next week or? Yeah, that's next week.
Yep.
So they're going to have a lot. Crazy and the rest of the people are going to be down there shaking hands, having cocktails. Hey, how's it going? What's going on? Yeah, I know we can't talk about players on the contract because that's against the rules. But let's just say hypothetically, it's like, hey, Houston, how's it going? Yeah, thanks for putting me up in the suite. Thanks for buying me some drinks. I know I hooked you up with a steak dinner. so they've got the Texas Vikings and the Texas Vikings and the Minnesota Texans. Mm-hmm. They've got that shuttle going back and forth. There's going to be a lot of wheeling and dealing. And the Vikings have money to spend, and they are a destination now for the first time, I'm going to say in 30 years, 40 years. Guys want to come to Minneapolis to play. They want the facilities, the ranking that we've gotten. They want the winning culture. They want to come here. So we don't have to pay top dollar. We don't have to outbid a lot of teams to get players. We're going to have to do something in free agency because we have 4 draft picks right now. And we have a first, a fifth?
Well, no, we got 5 now because we have a supplemental third.
Okay, so the supplemental third. So we have first, which is number 24 overall, which and we're gonna have to trade out of that. That's my opinion. And I think we're gonna have to go the free agent route, the UDFAs, and see what we can build. But we need studs on the offensive and defensive lines. And in the secondary, we need at least 2 bodies in the secondary. Other than that, I think we're pat. You guys argue with that? I mean,
I agree. I figure offensive line and defensive secondary are the most glaring needs that we have.
Ditto.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's probably about 29 teams in the league that would trade with us to be in that position. To specifically need those 5 bodies. We need 5 bodies that I can count. We need 2 on the offensive line. We need a mauler. We need somebody on the defensive line that can actually get to the quarterback. And we need 2 reliable corners. I don't know Byron Murphy Jr. I'm guessing we're going to make a bid to bring him back. Harrison Smith, I don't know if he's going to be in purple next year. He doesn't know that. Nobody knows.
He said he'd take time out.
Hmm?
You'll be shocked if he isn't.
Yeah, I think he's going to finish his career there.
Yeah, so do I. But I think he might have finished his career as that. And
it's possible. I don't. He'll be there or nowhere. I agree.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think he'll be back.
Yeah.
I think he'll be back because I think he thinks that he wants to be a part of a Super Bowl run, and he might just be convinced enough that we're knocking on the door, and what's it all been for? And he's still highly capable.
And 20 weeks into the season, he didn't look like he lost it, man. Because there's nothing worse than watching Ali in his last fight, or something that's like, oh my gosh, remember what O.J. Simpson looked like as a San Francisco 49er? Like, why are you continuing this thing, right? Yeah. So he did his job.
He
plays every down. He doesn't take downs off. So yeah, I've never been a fan of, and I understand they have jobs to do too, but I've never been a fan of reporters sticking a mic in the face of a guy who just lost a playoff game and his season's over, and you ask him, so you think he'll come back next year? I'm not thinking about that right now.
He is going to be a free agent too, and that's a big thing to consider because
yes and no. I don't think he's a free agent in any way, shape, or form. Like, again, I'm just saying,
he'll restructure.
He's in Minnesota the rest of his life.
His contract's over. However we look at it, and whatever semantics we're going to use, his contract's over. So is it 1 year?
He'll restructure. He's all in. He'll do whatever it takes to and maybe lead by example in that as well.
Yeah,
shoved
it's
him.
like a
But
Barry Sanders thing. It's like a Barry Sanders was a free agent at one point. And nobody thinks Harrison Smith's going to leave the Vikings. He's not. It's just a matter of it's a crushing loss. You work all year
yep,
and your season's over. Don't ask me if I'm coming back next year today. Let me go
yep.
home, play my guitar, whatever he plays, and let me relax. And
My
because
guitar.
yeah, that's what it is. I think he plays the guitar. But and the other thing is a lot of these guys, it's like Stephon Gilmore. Hey, hi. Preseason starting? Yeah, I'm not sure if I want to play yet. Third week of the preseason. Is that tomorrow? Yeah, okay. I'll show up on Wednesday because they just don't want to come to training camp. They don't want to go
Oh,
through.
and
But you're
meanwhile,
still.
somewhere they, because they're winners, they document their workout regimen.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
so when they
Oh
get
yeah.
back, they give it a conditioning coach. They give it like, yeah, this is what I was doing, man. I didn't know if I was going to be packing it in or not, but
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they all do it. It's like there was a comedian who was talking about the difference between men and women mentally. They said no matter what a woman looks like, every single woman on the planet thinks she needs to lose 10 pounds, and every guy on the planet thinks he's only 10 pounds away from dating a supermodel. It's like every single athlete, every single, especially in the NFL, every last one of them, no matter how old they are, they think, you know what? That phone may ring tomorrow, and I'm going to get a call. You think Randall Cunningham was cutting marble and thinking, I don't have to keep my arm in shape? No,
Right.
he took 1 week after Dennis Green called him, and he was taking snaps with the Minnesota Vikings. Okay, so
Yeah.
these guys keep themselves in shape. But hey, Adrian Peterson thinks he's coming back.
Right.
It just Colin Kaepernick thinks he may come back. It's like these guys never know when to leave. So.
I don't see either of that, but that's all right.
All right, but so anyway, that being said, as far as the needs, we have our needs that are established. We know what they are. And I'm sure the the Viking coaching staff definitely knows what they are. The scouting team knows what they are, and we have money to spend. I guess the next hot topic is now that we're coming out of this, Q and I did pose the question to the Purple Daily crew in July about what to do with Sam Darnold. And that question becomes a live grenade right now because we need to know within the next few weeks, what do we do with Sam Darnold? If we take a chance, and there are some who say, oh, the last 2 weeks of Sam Darnold um, probably cost him a $50 million contract because he looked so bad. And there's some who say, well, if Sam Darnold goes to another team and he doesn't have Kevin O'Connell, then he's not going to play as well, so his value may not be that high. I'm going to tell you what I think, and then you guys chime in. I think that the last 2 weeks didn't affect Sam Darnold's value at all. That the NFL is a league where quarterbacks are quarterbacks. We've seen that Kirk Cousins, who couldn't even plant his foot and was throwing on a tennis court, got $160 million contract, 37 years of age, because sight unseen, because some team needed a quarterback. Sam Darnold's better shape than Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins got $160 million guaranteed. Sam Darnold could get $50 million. And if he can get a $50 million contract, I say what I said back in July, franchise him. The Vikings are going to have a bet to make. And with the Senior Bowl next week, they're going to be talking to a lot of people. They're going to get feelers out there. And all you need is two teams to need Sam Darnold. That's all you need, two teams. Say, I'm going to make up team names to teams that don't exist. The Raiders and the Steelers. So let's say two teams need Sam Darnold. We franchise him. We can probably get a second or a third. We could probably get a second or third in the trade. What say you guys?
But honestly, whatever we get, because the positions that we need to draft are ones that we don't necessarily need somebody in the first round. You hear what I'm saying? We don't necessarily need a high round pick. So if I can get a 4 and a 5 or a 3 and a 4, that's good for me. We just need more draft capital. And in the middle of the draft, that's where That's how you can actually tell. And we were talking about this the other day. How can you tell if your draft's successful? Well, it's what your third, fourth, and fifth round picks have done 3 years down the road.
Are they still on the roster?
Yeah, exactly. If they're still on the roster, that means they're good enough. But 3 years, that's when it takes that long, because you better. It would be terrible if your first round draft pick didn't work out, but it's even worse if none of your draft picks are even on the team. Like from what did we was it
2020?
I'm sorry, Razor, what was it, 22?
21,
Yeah,
I
21
believe.
or 22.
Yeah, Spielman's last draft, they're not around. Kellen Mond draft, that draft is gone. Chaz Surratt, that draft is gone.
I mean, they're just awful.
Yeah,
because he kept trading.
They didn't finish their rookie contracts.
He kept trading for picks, but for fourth and fifth round picks. He wasn't trading for twos and threes and ones, twos and threes. He was trading for fours, fives, and sixes. And Kel Surprise, none of them worked out. So whatever happens, but again, because of the needs now. We could just easily sign Aaron Jones or we'll just let what's his face go away and then come back again. We'll trade for him again.
We have that trade camp every year.
Yeah,
camp.
Yep. But Cam Akers, yeah. But no, I mean, the only move that makes sense now is franchising Darnold, even though, franchising Darnold with the intention of, trading him for draft capital. And then I think the only thing that would be really cool is if they gave him if they gave Darnold some of the leverage, like, tell me a couple teams you won't play for and we won't screw you over. But
basically,
but especially if they're doing that. And who knows, maybe there was because he only took 10 million, maybe there's some maybe there's some language that says, yeah, no, you're not going to franchise. You're not going to franchise me. We don't know that yet. So
I think if that was the case, we would know it by now. It would have been an issue. The Vikings would have said they can't franchise them. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm not sure what's out there, but I think if there was no chance of that, we would have heard. It's like, you can't prove a negative. Yeah, I think we would definitely heard, well, we can't franchise him, so here it is. He's a free agent. But,
right. I got you.
That's true.
Adam, what do you think?
Well, I want to see him back on the team next year. I just the same way I was hoping he'd be a Baker Mayfield redux. I'm also hoping that if he leaves the team, he's not a Brad Johnson redux and leads another team to a Super Bowl. But that's so Vikings like.
That's what they do. That's what we do. That's what we do.
And he's not altogether not very much like a Brad Johnson. No, he really is. So
there are similarities.
Yeah, very, very many. So I think that I want to see him back, however we have to do it. I think there's huge upside if for whatever reason McCarthy's not 100% ready, or worst case scenario is ready physically but is just not ready to handle the load and doesn't comes out really, really not playing effectively. So to have him in the wings, knowing the system inside and out, getting all of the jitters out of his system from that. I think the upside would be enormous to having him back on many levels. And like I said before, I don't think you can let a guy who played out of his mind like this and flourish under this system just walk. So whether it's franchising him or, however they have to do it, I think we need to have a roster spot for him next year, plain and simple. It's just too much downside not to.
And I know you've argued this point, but I'm guessing, I guess my question is, if we do franchise him, $40 million is what we're paying for him for a 1-year contract, which is going to eat up a lot of our, what do we have, $70 million. It's going to eat up more than 70. They're going to eat up more than half of the available cap space we have that we need for an offensive line, defensive line, and the needs that we just identified, which we clearly are not going to have the draft capital to draft. So we
Is
would
it
be
definitely
punting.
etched in stone that it's 40?
Yeah, 40 is the number. Well, it's 40-ish. It's probably a little higher because the draft goes up, the cap goes up every year, but
Right.
it's
Yeah.
40-ish. 40.
Okay.
Yeah, 40-ish.
Yeah.
40-ish. So
Okay.
if for us to do that for a potential backup quarterback, because if the plan is JJ McCarthy to start, we're paying $40 million for a backup quarterback. That puts us in the same position we were in with the Kirk Cousins situation. We tied up all of our resources in a quarterback, and we have other needs.
We got to let him go.
Yeah, if Sam Darnold's on this roster for 2025, I think honestly, Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and the entire staff should be fired. I honestly do, because the reason you were brought here is to identify a quarterback, something Spielman couldn't do. If you're going to spend $40 million on a guy who is not your future, not going to be the future of your franchise, we should have kept Kirk. We could have kept Kirk.
Well, or irrespective of that, if you drafted your guy, but yet you're dumping $40 million on another guy, you're just
that's what I said. You spent if they should all be fired, because your job was to identify somebody you wouldn't have to spend.
And I will say this, and I will also say this though, even in the college ranks, JJ McCarthy was a big game quarterback. He won big game. Not necessarily. Now, Sam Darnold played very well with Southern Cal. He with USC. He lit it up, right? But he didn't win a national championship. He wasn't even one of the teams in the playoff for the national championship. So, big game.
Did they have the national? Did they? Because like I said, I don't follow them. What did they have? The playoffs, the college playoffs, when Sam Darnold was in college?
No, I think they
so.
did.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, so. They didn't have
so
it.
I
think it happened 2 years after.
So it's happened after.
That
okay.
had like 5.
Again,
the year after
McCarthy was never asked to carry his team with his arm, though. He had
true.
one of the lowest passes per game in the country.
But does that,
he was under 20 a game.
But my question is, does that mean that he can't do it? We don't. None of us know that.
No.
But I hate to. And by the way, if either of you use that term "game manager," I will personally pistol whip. Don't say it. Don't say it.
Let me throw out.
But if you don't have to throw the ball, I mean, anytime you throw the ball, 3 things can happen, and 2 of them are bad. So if you don't have to throw the ball, if you will run the ball effectively, but when you have to throw it, you're efficient and you can get downfield, because JJ McCarthy can sling it a little bit, just a little bit. So I think that, and your coach, and by the way, your mentor is a guy who is an NFL coach. I think we found a guy, but we got to let go, but just like we did with Cousins, we just got to let Darnold go now.
Okay. Now I'm going to throw it back at him, but I'm going to a couple of quick points. Yes, I don't know if JJ McCarthy can play in the NFL just because he played. I told you, just because you won in college doesn't mean you can win in the pros. There have been a lot of guys who've proven that. Just because your coach was an NFL coach, Matt Eberflus was an NFL coach. So that doesn't mean anything either. Just because you did something 20 years ago, I rode skateboard 20 years ago. I'm not doing that right now. Okay. Right. Just because somebody used to do something or did something at a lower level doesn't mean that they can do it. But I do believe that what is currently in place for JJ McCarthy gives him a better leg up than somebody who doesn't have Kevin O'Connell in that staff.
There it is.
Adam.
So a couple of things. So another scenario, which, we're talking about franchise him or nothing, or I think, if I'm Sam Darnold and I've had the career that I've had, and I find this place where, would he be still willing to negotiate something that they both can live with for a year of look and see what McCarthy can do, fine enough, I'll give you a discount. Keep me on this roster because I'm flourishing in this system. And I can't even imagine going back to a system like the Jets or some other, hellhole or whatever in the NFL. And
He ain't
and
going
does
back.
he who is it I'm thinking of in the NBA? Who was it who who took the just bet on himself so big time a couple of years ago? God.
Oh, the kid from the Celtics. The kid from the Celtics.
No.
Oh, never mind. Never mind then.
Anyway, the bottom line is, what if there's another scenario where it's not going to cost us $40 million, where it's going to cost us $25 million or something, and he bets on himself and he says, you know what, I'm willing to stick around. I'm willing to see if this kid works out. If not, then I got it. I'm in the system that I want to be in. I don't want to take 10 steps backward here. Either, if I'm literally all about the money and not success and titles and championships, yeah, I could do that. I can pull a Patrick Ewing, absolutely. When he could have gone to Orlando, been the missing link to a championship team, but he was not about the championships, and he took the money and stayed in New York and never won one. But it is, I'd like to think that there's a guy out there like that somewhere. Maybe Darnold's the guy who can see big picture instead of just tunnel vision right now. Like he'll have another chance at a contract, but to stay in this system, he's flourishing and he's not going to have a chance like that potentially. So I'm hoping that it's neither an all or none scenario, that somewhere they can find a place where everyone can live with it. And they sit down and say, look, here, we know the story, the story. You're flourishing like nobody's business in this system. We have to give him a chance. He's our high draft pick, and he's going to be our starter. But if he is lights out next year, God bless you, and you're still gonna be teams who are looking for a 28-year-old quarterback with your record here. So I'm hoping that that's the case. I'm hoping that it's not like an all or none, and just the money is literally the end all for him. I think
there's the union to consider, though, not the other team.
Exactly. I don't know. Agree with you, and I don't. Your points are very valid and very realistic. But I'm going to give you a hypothetical. I'm going to say to you, Adam, you've been working to do what you do all of your life, but you can only do it for another maybe 3 or 4 years. There's one company that's going to give you $10 million for 1 year to do it, and another company that's going to guarantee you $50 million for 3 years to do it. Now, you love this company that's giving you $10 million. What do you do?
Well, again,
this is a business. I understand the fan side, but this is a business. If Sam Darnold is willing to stick around the Minnesota Vikings, knowing full well that J.J. McCarthy is there specifically to do the job that he was hired to do, and turn down $150 million, if I'm Mrs. Darnold, we're going to have a talk at the kitchen table that night. We're going to talk to that.
He could. There's another scenario too that we haven't talked about, which is that he could stick around for a lesser thing and then get picked up midway through next season to a team that really needs a quarterback for a big money grab, and then re-up with that team after that. So it can make up some of that too. He could make up some of that.
But then we've eaten up a roster spot for half a season that we didn't have to use up.
For sure. We have to
see how it starts falling apart.
Enter Daniel Jones.
This is why the
reality
is bring Daniel
we haven't talked about Daniel Jones either, right?
The reality is Daniel Jones will be in camp to compete, sort of, with J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah.
Sam
and
Darnold
Nick Mullins.
Nick Mullins, like, okay, I'm going to say this. We interrupt this discussion to make a comment, and I have to give myself a little cover. So
now I don't want to get off on a rant here.
Now, that having been said, I'm going to say this. Kevin O'Connell looked around his quarterback room and saw Kirk Cousins, Nick Mullins, and a few miscellaneous pieces.
Sean Mannion.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins went down, Kevin O'Connell got on the phone. He called around and found somebody who had never had success anywhere, really, Josh Dobbs, and brought him in because Kevin O'Connell said, this guy's not the quarterback I want, but he's the quarterback I can use. I can give him the plays. He can run my system for a while. He's the spare tire, that donut you put on. I can drive the car till I get to where I'm going.
Yeah.
Kevin O'Connell this year looked around the room, saw Sam Darnold, he saw J.J. McCarthy, he saw Nick Mullins, and much like when you look around your living room and you notice one piece of furniture doesn't match, Nick Mullins was in the room. He knows the system. And he said, you know what we need? We need Sam Darnold. Oh, and I think I'm going to go out and get a Daniel Jones. And Nick Mullins was sitting there thinking, what do you need Daniel Jones for? I'm right here. Well, I'm right here is why we got Daniel Jones. He went out and got Daniel Jones because the plan is the plan. And I keep saying the plan. The plan is J.J. McCarthy, veteran backup. If J.J. McCarthy isn't ready in week 1, if he's not ready until week 6, we can't just say, we hope it works out. And we certainly can't trot Nick Mullins out there for 6 weeks.
No.
So the Wilfs do not believe in not being competitive. So the interest of being competitive, they said, who can I get and give him 18 months in my system? Daniel Jones has been sitting there learning for a year now, almost a year. And he will have 12, 14, 16 months before he's required to go out there or even thought about to go out there and take snaps in a Viking uniform. J.J. McCarthy is your starting quarterback, but starting quarterbacks get hurt. And as we learned from Kirk, when the starting quarterback gets hurt, you can't turn and look to somebody who can't play the position and win games for you. That's the problem. That's the way he lived through that, and he learned from that. So he said, I'm going to forego that. I'm going to get Daniel Jones. Had the plan been to keep Sam Darnold, who was doing quite well at the time we brought we brought Daniel Jones in when Darnold was doing quite well. Darnold did well all year. And he said, you know what? I'm going to bring him in to put him on the practice squad. He's costing us nothing. The Giants are picking up the tab. Granted, we got him the contract, so he owes us. But, it's like because of that playoff win. The Giants are picking up the tab. This is a good deal. So, Darnold, thank you for your service. I wish you well. I have nothing but love, brother. Have a good time. He played well for us. It's like the Case Keenum thing. I would have loved to have seen Case Keenum for another year. But we saw Case Keenum the following year, and everybody says, oh, he flamed out. Yeah, but who says he would have flamed out with the Vikings? I mean, this is a car that if I was in better shape, I could probably play quarterback for this team. If we had an offensive line, because you've got the weapons. So
we're 30 years younger.
Exactly, 20 years younger. So that's my quarterback rant again. Is that the plan is the plan, and the plan, while it's tempting, like I said, I refer to Sam Darnold as the Vikings Rumspringer. You know what? We knew what we were getting into. We went out, we had our fling, and Darnold was hot. He was hot. We liked it. We had a great time. But we got to go back to real life. Real life is going back home, going back to the family, going back to the job. Spring break was Sam Darnold. He was the wild date. He was your bachelor party. But now is the wedding. Now is when you go home and you set up your house, you set up your real life. And Sam Darnold is not going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL in 4 years. He won't be. I'm telling you, he won't be.
No.
But J.J. McCarthy will. He better be.
And we won't know. We won't know if we wait till he gets 3-4 years into his contract.
So paying even if Sam Darnold decides to come back for $20 million, paying that much money for a backup quarterback is insane when we get Daniel Jones for less. So that's my take on that. And so that's that being said, we're going to move on to the next topic. Now that we've discussed the quarterbacks, we've discussed the draft. What else is hanging out there? Oh, the championship
Coaching.
championship week is coming up.
Uh,
Championship week. Does anybody care? Does it?
Yes.
Oh, by the
Yeah.
way, I just saw this as a breaking news. Turns out the Lions are not in the NFC Championship game.
That's
Despite
kept secret. That's
yeah,
kept secret. It's
that's your
finally out.
secret. Yeah. I don't know if I was telling Q. I don't know if you've seen the meme. Because of Dan Campbell's comments, there's a meme where there's a picture of Dan Campbell and Kevin O'Connell, and they're standing in the beach, and Dan Campbell goes, "See, I told you I'd see you in 2 weeks."
Yeah,
That was it's like, hey, yeah, that's right. So you both have the same tea time. I think the Lions, and if one of you guys agrees or disagrees, I'd like to hear your opinion. But I think the Lions have officially missed their window. I think they've missed their window. I think it was open and it's closed up now. What do you guys think?
I think their window was open bigger last year than this year as well, and they now they lost both their coordinators, and I see them falling back much more average than maybe much more than we even imagined. But just for the champion, I'm looking very forward to this week. I think these two games have potential to be awesome games, and I think I have both road teams winning, with Washington winning it all in a stunning Super Bowl, and Jaden Daniel. No team left wants to play the Commanders. I tell you that with this kid. Like and Kansas City hasn't shown me anything special that would take them to a level they needed to be at to get over a team that's as hot as that. They just look like a charm team to me, Commanders. And I think they're going to handle Philadelphia, and especially if Hurts is not 100%. And I think they have a great shot to win it all. I hope they do. I hope it's like one of these rare. That'll be without question the best rookie year in the history of the NFL.
Oh yeah,
and he's been unbelievable.
So wow. You're saying the Commanders over the Eagles and the Bills over the Chiefs.
Bills over the Chiefs. And Josh Allen's time has arrived.
And then the Commanders over the Bills.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm kind of there's something about me that kind of want to see the Commanders win, but I think the Eagles are going to take that regardless because, well, you got Saquon Barkley. I just if you got a quarterback that can't plant, you got a quarterback that can't run around as much as I got Saquon Barkley. And then the Bills and Adam, you're right. Road team take that one. Although rumor has it that they've already had 2 roughing the quarterback calls already pending against them. So.
They got 2 in the hopper.
The game might be played in Arizona. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. So you're saying who are you predicting now? You're predicting the Commanders,
Eagles, Bills. I kind of want to see the Commanders win, but I think the
Eagles, Bills.
Eagles, yeah.
Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Who wins the Eagles-Bills Super Bowl?
Oh.
You didn't see that question.
Come on, you walked down that street. I mean,
you didn't see that question.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. How do you get blindsided by that?
Eagles.
Eagles. Okay.
Eagles.
All right.
And Bills go 0-for-5.
Okay. So many things in play here. First of all,
6.
First, they're 0-for-4. The Bills are 0-for-4, as we are. I'd be remiss if I say that there is no part of me that ever wants to see the Bills win a Super Bowl before we do. I can't imagine that. That being said, I don't think I'm going to have to worry about that this year. I'm dreadfully wrong about picking Viking games, but I'm usually pretty good with the rest of the NFL because I think my heart's in the Viking game, and I just can't bear to pick them to lose too often. But the Eagles, I think they have too many weapons for the Commanders. I think that it's an uphill climb for a rookie quarterback, even as somebody who's playing as well as Jaden Daniels. Philadelphia is a hostile environment, and better quarterbacks than that have gone in there and been rattled. I think it's the Eagles. Um, I'm no fan of the Eagles in any way, shape, or form, and I would love to see them get to the Super Bowl because I believe that when they do, the Kansas City Chiefs will wipe the field with them. I until I see Pat Mahomes lose a Super Bowl, I will
Yeah.
not believe it can happen. Okay.
Oh
Until
yeah.
I
Oh
see
yeah.
that occur,
Oh yeah.
I am not going to believe it. It's a thing. Okay. It's
There's
kind of
always
like,
that.
yeah,
Always
it's
that.
you know, I was a horse racing fan when I was younger, and they had what they would call an entry. You would have a coupled entry where you'd have two horses or sometimes three, the same trainer, 1A and 1B. And the rabbit, the fast horse, would go out there and run like crazy, and everybody would chase the rabbit, and then 1B would just walk past the dead horses and they'd fall off. This is what I think the Kansas City Chiefs do. They do the rope-a-dope, they do the play possum. They don't have to play it. I mean, they've got their division every year. They're the New England Patriots of this decade. They've got their division. They know that they don't have to start playing until the playoffs. And once the playoffs start, they go, oh, wait, yeah, so we have to win 3 games. I Josh Allen is a hell of a quarterback. And again, the horse racing analogy. There were two horses back in the 70s, Alley Dawn affirmed, the Triple Crown races, the Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont. You have to be 3 years old to run in those races. You only have one shot. And every year, those three horses, in that year, these three horses were the two best horses in all of thoroughbred racing. And Alydar and Affirmed raced each other, and Affirmed won by a head, a nose, and a neck. If And everybody says, well, if Alydar was born a year earlier or a year later, he would have been a Triple Crown winner too. Yeah, if Josh Allen had come along 5 years earlier or 5 years later, he'd have multiple rings, but he was born
Yep.
at the wrong time. He was born at
Yeah.
the wrong time. It's
Yep.
like everybody who had to face Brady, and it's like, you're great, but so I think the Super Bowl is going to be Kansas City versus Philadelphia. Philadelphia gets blown out by Kansas City. Buffalo has to wait another year, maybe 2 years, and my dream Super Bowl is in his second year starting. JJ McCarthy faces Josh Allen, who is a seasoned vet in the Super Bowl in 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
and the final score is 34-34 after 4 overtimes. The NFL finally calls it because none of the players can get back on the field.
You know what? There's two Bills jokes that I've heard in my life. So you know what Bills stands for?
I've heard this, but go ahead. I'm going to let you tell
Boy,
it.
boy, I love losing Super Bowls.
There you go.
That's what. And then why is it great? Why is it always great to date a Buffalo Bills fan?
I don't know.
Because she'll never ask for a ring.
No, that is great. It's perfect.
Unfortunately, we can say the same thing about the Vikings right now. So
this is true. This is true.
Sadly enough,
Q and I went to Buffalo's game, Bills the Viking game up in Buffalo, and I told him, I said it's one of my favorite cities to go and watch an away game in because it's the one only city. You go to Pittsburgh, it happens. Green Bay, it happens. Buffalo, nobody ever says, "Oh, Vikings, how many Super Bowls you win? How many Super Bowls nobody mentions it. Nobody mentions the Super Bowl. I was talking to a Bills fan who ran a bar in Maryland, and Super Bowl Sunday, he runs a bar, the local bar, sports bar, and he never shows up Super Bowl Sunday. He said, "You know what?" He said, "In my religion, we don't celebrate that day." I'm a Bills fan. I'm a Bills fan. We don't celebrate. We don't observe Super Bowl Sunday. It's like, wow. It's like, yeah, believe me, I know the feeling. I know the feeling. Well,
let me see. I can find this picture real quick. And I don't know if I can. Let me see.
but while I'm searching, I'm
Yeah.
gonna say now we have time, a few minutes for last comments before. Like I said, I may have said this off the air, so I'm going to say it on the air now. The season's over, but this Vikings misery goes on forever. So we will be doing a few updates, a few episodes, maybe one-on-ones, have a couple of guests between now and the draft. We still haven't figured out what we're going to do as far as the draft last year. The last 2 years, Q and I have done the draft together, once in Vegas and once up in Connecticut. So I have to figure out this year what's going on with the draft. But there will be more QR code going on between now and infinity, probably now until we win a Super Bowl, and we will do one the day after the Super Bowl, but not after that because everybody will be at my memorial service because because in the words of the late great Fred Sanford, it'll be the big one.
The big one.
The big one. It'll be the big one. I'm coming. It's the big
Join
one.
you, honey.
I'm joining, honey. So that'll be me and Bud having a beer together, saying I knew we could do it. So, did you find what you're looking for, Adam?
No, I was trying to find my wife and I went. It was a Labor Day weekend of 1997, first full year of our marriage, and we went up to the opener. It was the Vikings at the Bills, and I have a great picture from that game, but I'll find it. And we won. So that was pretty cool.
Did you have any closing comments or any? Yeah, yes, it's a huge stadium and cold stadium.
Yeah.
So any closing comments for you?
Well, we're still keeping an eye on the coaching situation. Man, you kind of feel for Dan Campbell though, because his main guys are gone. Aaron Glenn choosing to sign with the Jets, but it looks like I said, a couple of people have gone in a different direction from Brian Flores, and I'm thinking a lot of people are saying that the only hope he's got left is Jacksonville. And I missed most of the NFL news today. So
okay, so let me fill you in with real quick. Jacksonville, he was out of the running for Jacksonville. They'd already narrowed it down to the candidates they wanted as of yesterday. But then today, the news came down that Jacksonville fired their general manager, and
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so they're restarting now. They're restarting everything. So they don't know who the candidates are going to be. But the likelihood is that in this stage of the game, Brian Flores won't be on that list. If they're bringing in a new general manager, he's going to want established head coaches. He's probably not going to want the drama of an NFL lawsuit or anything else. I mean, if it was somebody who had already been in place and had worked with him, that would have been different. So I think Brian Flores is pretty safe.
Just garbage, though, man. Yeah. All right. Well, that was my take. I was just looking to see what was going on there, and I did hear about Trent Baalke getting terminated, but anyway. And what you got?
I just want to say that Maki and I have been friends since 1978, and
I wasn't even born. That was before I was born.
Right. And I
was born when I was 18.
It's just been it has been such a pleasure and such a thrill to participate in these powwow talks about the Vikings and like-minded individuals, which is hard to find down here in Florida. But yeah, it's just been a real thrill, and enjoy it and hope for more. And appreciate you guys including me, and I really appreciate it. It's been a real pleasure.
Glad to have you.
Glad to have you. It's hard to find them in Florida. It's like, so let's say you've got three people on the show here. One's in Florida, one's in Virginia, one's in Connecticut. Yeah, nobody anywhere near Minnesota. So yeah, we're every year. Shout out to the Northern Virginia Viking fan club. They're a huge club. The guys, I haven't had a chance to go up there meet them, but I interact with a lot of them, and I'm gonna try to get a few of them on the show at some point. Maybe check out a game with them, but. Yeah, we're the Vikings fans are everywhere. We travel. So that being said, until next time, which it'll probably be a few weeks from now, but maybe something quick after the Super Bowl. Who knows? Maybe a few shout outs. This has been the QR code. I'm Razor.
I'm Q.
I'm Adam.
They say until next time, SKOL.
Go.
SKOL.
SKOL.